Welcome to Inspiration from the Conversation podcast. It's here where I hope you'll find inspiration. Hi, I'm Jeff, your host, and this is episode 2, Death of a Loved One. I'd like to dedicate this episode to my late wife, Joanne Whitaker Williams. And it is difficult, the loss of a loved one. And I've lost 3 grandmothers, a grandfather, 2 aunts, 2 uncles, a father, a mother, a brother, and now my wife about 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years ago. And I lost a sister-in-law a few months before my wife, and I lost a sister-in-law a week after we buried my wife. So it is difficult, but the person that is remaining still needs to move about and move on with their life. And it is difficult to do that. But as time goes by, the sting of it eases off. But you still remember that person. You still remember how you have loved and you were loved by that person. So that really doesn't go away. But you think about the good times, or at least I do, and the bad times too. I think about sometimes how I could have been a better husband to my late wife. And while it's, that phase of my life is over, I still think about those things. And that's why I've always tried to when we've had conversation, I always try to watch how I spoke to her, the things that I said to her. And I tried my best not to get angry to the point that I would fuss with her. Because a lot of times when we say things, it's hard to bring it back. It's hard to. But that's why you need to have a little bit of humility and go back and beg that person's pardon for something that you did to them, or something that you said to them, something that may not have set right with them, or it may not have set right with you. It's important to go back and to ask for forgiveness for whatever that is that was done. And but it is difficult. But Joanne was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer on November the 12th, 2021. And she died September the 21st, 2022. We have 4 children and 3 grandchildren. And when we have family get-togethers, it is difficult for me a lot of times. It has gotten easier because it's been 2 years, but it still is tough for me. And a lot of that is because in all of my children and my grandchildren, I see my late wife. And I tell you, sometimes the way that my daughter talks and the way that she holds her head, the way that she speaks, the way that she laughs, I see her mother. And it's the same way with my boys. I have 1 daughter and I have 3 boys. And the way that they interact and cut up and whatever, I see Joanne in them. And it reminds me of the times that we've had when we've had family gatherings. And it gets a little tough sometimes, but I'm getting past that. But I'm often reminded of Joanne through them. And that's not a bad thing. I don't want you to understand, or should I say, I want you to understand that's not a bad thing. And it's okay, if you need to cry, because there's sometimes that I have been by myself and I shedded a tear because of, something that I hear, something that somebody says, or, I have a bunch of pictures of us. We took many pictures, and sometimes it comes back and I see and I kind of, but it's important during that time. And you take as much time as you need, but it's important to grieve. It really is important to grieve. Case in point, I remember many years ago, I guess I was probably, I was about 34, 35 years old. And I lost my father at an early age. I was about 15 when I lost my father. At that particular time, we were living in Brooklyn. And what happened to me was I was getting ready for work, but the night before I had dreamt about my father. I hadn't dreamt about my father in many years. And when I got up, I was just kind of startled that I would have, dreamt about him. But anyway, I got up and I got myself together. Washcloth was in there, and I was starting to wash my face, and the tears just started to flow. And I mean, they flowed. I do mean they flowed. And I always think about the fact that while I did, cry at the funeral, I didn't grieve. I didn't release that, whatever it was that I needed to release. I didn't release that. And it was many, many years, I guess 20, 21 years after the fact. And I just broke down and cried. And I mean, snot blowing, I guess I could have won an Academy Award for how bad it was. Joe never did say anything, but I had told her later, what I had experienced. And so that's why I'm saying, now that when you lose somebody, it is very important that you take the time to grieve. And I mean, what I'm saying is basically, if you need time alone, then take some time alone, but don't take too much time alone, because, family should be there for you. And there are other resources out there that you can utilize in order to get, help you to get past and get through the grieving process. Because that's really what it's all about. It's moving past it. Like any problem in life, you can't go around things. You have to move through it. And I guarantee you it would make you a stronger person. And, for my children and my grandchildren, it's kind of new to them because this is a close family member. And I can't say that, because I've already lost a mother and I lost a father, that, that I can write a book on anything. But I can just say what how it was for me and how I was able to get through it. But I still understand that this is different for me because this is a spouse. Whereas a mother and father, there's no intimacy between the two, but you're intimate with your significant other. You're talking about a lot of different things. Things that you might want to do or don't want to do or whatever the case may be. And the fact that those things that you talked about or were working towards, that part of your life is over now. And you just have to accept it for what it is. But you can get past it. And I'm not the only one that has lost a mother, father, sister, brother. I'm not the only one that has lost a spouse. And people do handle things a lot differently. But, you can get past this. You can work through this. But I will say that when you think about that loved one, get to yourself and cry. There's nothing wrong with crying. We have the tendency in society to think because you cry, especially if you're a man, that means that you're weak. No, that's not what that means. It means that you have feelings too. And you need to release that from your body, because if you hold that in, that will at some point begin to make you sick. So it's very important that you grieve. And the thing about it is that if you don't, you're in for a world of trouble. You'll end up like me when I was 35 years old in the bathroom crying because of my father who had died almost 21 years prior to that. So it's very important to grieve. And another thing is, if you have a spouse that's sick, caregiving is, or caregiver, it's a tough job. But you can definitely work through this as well. And the thing about it is that, you do the best that you can, but you have to take care of yourself as a caregiver as well. Because if you don't take care of yourself, then you can't make yourself available for whoever it is that you're providing care for. And that means that, while you're taking care of a sick spouse or family member, you yourself have to, do your checkups with the doctor and, get some exercise in. And it will seem pretty much overwhelming, and it is. But the thing about it is, while Joe was sick, she was really on me about making sure I take care of myself. And I told her that I was, and I was. My children pitched in when I needed them to. But in the end, it was my responsibility. But I appreciate everything that my children did and my son-in-law, because they were very, very helpful in that aspect of taking care of, my wife. And the thing about that is that, as long as you do the best that you can, then don't worry about what you think that you're doing wrong. And whether or not, you realize it or not. But sometimes you'll have people to come and make little snide remarks. And in my case in point, I had a person to text me and was basically telling me what I should and should not do as far as taking care of my wife. Now, this person didn't have they didn't have a spouse that was sick. And here they are trying to tell me how to take care of my spouse that's sick. It was already difficult enough to see my wife go through what she was going through. And for a split moment after I read the text, I was really angry. But then a calming came over me because I realized that for one, I have to pick my battles, and that specific time, it was not for me to fight that person. I'm already trying to get through, trying to help my wife, get to her appointments and doing other things to make her comfortable, only to have another person to come and to, try to tell me what I should be doing or shouldn't be doing or whatever the case may be. And another thing I thought about was this person knew my wife longer than I knew my wife. And maybe, they just felt like, they are losing a friend. But I was losing a spouse. And so with that, I say, don't worry about what people may say or what people may think. You do what you see fit. You do the best that you can. And you ask God to help you in this situation as you go through and you take care of your spouse or your loved one. Don't worry about that. And you'll learn a lot of different things. You'll learn, what I found out is the doctors that were associated with the clinic as far as cancer, they had a lot of humility. And that's really what I needed, because there were some times when I wondered whether or not I was doing the best by my wife, by Joanne. And it did bother me. It really did. And I told my wife that if I could, I would take this burden from her. If that meant that she could stay here longer, I would take the burden from her. But I couldn't. It was hers and hers alone. She was the only one that could, take that burden and fight. And she did fight. Cancer, I tell you, it's, any kind of sickness, it's not fair. It really is not fair. But, as I come to realize, God does not make any mistakes. And it's kind of funny because it was after, Joanne's passing. I was thinking, I was like, not really mad with God, but I was like, okay, I see all these people that, that abuse their bodies. They do this, they do that, they drink themselves, they, doing drugs and whatever else. And then Joe is like, she was just living. Matter of fact, she was in the process of retiring when she got the diagnosis. But I just really did not understand that. I just did not understand And then the fact that, you know, the 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 treatment, the chemo or whatever you want to call it, it wasn't radiation, but chemo. While it did attack the cancer in her kidneys, but it also attacked the kidney and it attacked some other things in her body. And so, you know, and then plus, she just could not tolerate the medication that she was given. But I was like, I just don't, you know, Lord, I just don't understand, you know. Again, I see people, you know, abusing their bodies. But I had to come to the realization that while I wasn't, you know, stomping my feet and arguing and this and that, but when I really sat back and I thought about it, I said, well, really, I am upset or I'm mad at God. But in all His wisdom, He knows what's best. And that was something I had to acknowledge too, regardless of what I might think. He knows what's best. And it was best for her to leave this world. So now I believe her healing is now after her death. And I still have to believe that God could have healed her body if He wanted it to. But it just happens that the healing didn't come on this side. And some, you know, in the beginning, that was kind of a hard pill to swallow. But when we think about things like that, it's really not about us. It really is not about us. It's really about, you know, God can get the glory out of whatever situation that you're in. And I still acknowledge, you know, God, because He is good, He is true, He's fair. Because I would rather for her to not be suffering. And she was suffering. She really was. But, you know, that's just life. We're not going to stay here. We're here for a moment, and it seems like we're here for a long time. But you know, I want you to understand that life is fragile, and it's important that whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish in this life, don't wait. You know, achieve. You know, go after it and embrace it, because you don't really know how much longer you have on this earth. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I started taking music lessons, and I'm doing this podcast, and I also want to play in a band, but I'm going to eventually do a couple of open mics before I get to that point. And that's just some of the things that I want to do in my lifetime before I leave this earth. Because I know one day that I am going to die. You know, I can't put it no simpler than that. One day I am going to die. One day I am going to leave this earth. It's just like all the people before me, you know. And so it is important to not be a menace to society, you know, to do right, you know, by the people that are in your life. You know, talk to the people that are in your life. Try not to be mad with the people that are in your life, because you don't know how long you have. You know, I want you to understand that tomorrow's not promised to us. You can be here one moment and gone the next moment. You know, who would have known that in 10 months that Joanne would have been gone? And for a long time, while she was going through the treatment, I was still believing that that the medication was going to do what it needed to do, and that it was going to shrink the cancer, and that we were going to get back, in touch with our lives and do some things. But that did not happen. And so that's why it's important to do the things, live. And you just don't know how much time you have. And it's also important to talk, to your spouse and your loved ones about, a will, insurance, your last will and testaments, and things like that you would like to have done at your funeral. And to a life of me, I never understood people that didn't have insurance to bury themselves. I mean, that's crazy. You should have some type of insurance. It doesn't take a whole lot to have some type of insurance so that when your time comes, your family is not trying to figure out how they're going to bury you. So have some insurance. Go ahead and get your will in order. Get everything set in that will so that when that time comes, they're not trying to figure out, well, what were your last wishes and everything like that. It is very important that you do that. But anyway, again, live. Acknowledge the fact that you're not going to be here always. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's just the way that this life is, unfortunately. But if there's a place that you want to go, try to make your way there. Try to enjoy this life. Try to enjoy this life. But anyway, that's all I have for this episode. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions, hit me up on ksbyjeff@gmail.com. That's ksbyjeff@gmail.com. And I'm gonna stop it right there, and I'll come back when I have more time.